multiple controversies within the science universe, like if an event wasn't observed, did it really happen, or is water wet? Another topic that is argued about, especially among chemists and physicists, is why is ice slippery? We know that there is water present that makes the ice slippery, which brings up another question. Is ice really slippery? Well, the definition of slippery is that it causes something to slip, slide, or fall. For example, a road that is covered in oil would be considered a slippery road. Therefore, the ice covered with water would be considered slippery. Now that that's cleared up, let's get back to the real question. Why is ice slippery? Scientists know that there is a liquid layer present, but they're not sure how it gets to be there. There are multiple theories that explain that liquid layer. The three major theories are pressure melting, frictional heating, and surface melting, also called pre-melting.
Pressure melting was one of the first credible theories introduced to this argument. It was introduced by James Thomson in 1850. Pressure melting suggests that a person's or object's weight exerts a very high amount of pressure per square inch of ice, causing it to melt. You might think, how is that even possible? Pressure to melt ice seems unreasonable. You need heat. However, Thomson explained that since ice is less dense than water, because of its crystalline structures, its melting point can be lowered by compressing and squeezing it. The increase in pressure reduces the volume. This theory is backed up by Le Chatelier's principle, which states that if a stress is placed on the system that is at equilibrium, the system will shift in such a way to relieve that stress. In this case, the principle will favor the melting of the water to compensate for the loss of volume due to pressure. Now, this might seem like a sound explanation to why the water on the ice is on the ice that makes it slippery. But when Thomson tested his theory, that he performed it on ice at a temperature no lower than negative 3.5 degrees Celsius, which led people to question, what about ice at a lower temperature? How is it that people can slip and slide on ice that is at negative 30 degrees Celsius? Their weight would not be enough to cause the melting of the ice. This takes us to the next theory, frictional heating. This theory was proposed by Frank P. Bowden and T.P. Hughes in 1939 as an alternative to pressure melting. Frictional heating is the idea that the motion of an object creates friction, which heats the ice and creates a layer of water, making the ice slippery. Bowden and Hughes conducted experiments at negative 3 degrees Celsius and below. They measured both the static and kinetic friction of metal and wooden skis on the ice. The researchers concluded that frictional heating was responsible for melting the ice. While this gave a more grounded explanation, it didn't explain why ice is slippery when a person is just standing on it.
With this said, the final theory we will discuss, and that my partners and I think is most well-founded, is surface melting, also known as pre-melting. Surface melting states that there is a film of liquid water on the surface of ice due to the instability of the surface molecules. The first researcher to explore this idea was Michael Faraday in 1850. He found that a film of water on ice will freeze when placed between two pieces of ice. However, it remains liquid on the surface of one ice cube. He couldn't argue this on a molecular level when this occurred, so his ideas were forgotten until they were brought up again by C. Gurney in 1949. He proposed that the H2O molecules were unstable at the surface due to the lack of other molecules above them, which then causes those molecules to migrate into the bulk of the solid, making the surface unstable and prompting the formation of a liquid phase. In 2004, Harold Reichart conducted an experiment that proved the existence of a liquid layer around the ice that is probably the main cause of the ice's slippery. Again in 2004, Katsuyuki Kawamura performed experiments that led him to conclude that this thin liquid-like layer is formed due to the reduced number of chemical bonds holding the surface molecules in place. Atoms in the outermost surface vibrate with greater amplitude than atoms in the interior solid. When the vibrating atom molecules interact with those of the bulk, it starts the process of surface melting. And just like that, it makes it slippery.
To finish it off, it's safe to say that all these explanations are credible to a certain extent. The surface melting provides the most current and credible evidence of them all. There are still many other theories out there, and scientists still aren't 100% sure which explanation is the best. Now that you learned about some of these theories, do you agree with them, or is there some other explanation out there?